So we'll just keep sitting down here in my hole, listening to the birds and enjoying the warm weather and sketching things out. So we have a safe, reliable, marine grade ABYC approaching exhaust system. Keep going. We are back, and we've got a neat little project that we're gonna start doing. So now that the fuel tank is hooked up with the fuel supply line and return line from the diesel engine, we actually have to get fuel in the tank. And so let's take a look at what that looks like. So previously I've spent some time drawing out our deck fill situation. So kind of started out with a rudimentary sketch and then came over here to another sketch, came over here, created a shopping list for this option, and then ultimately settled on this option down here. And so this option here is what we've got set up right here. So this is 1.5 inch fuel hose with a date stamp and type 2 and the ISO label. So what this is ABYC approved fuel hose. 1.5 inch fill hose is the minimum. So this is our deck fitting, solid 316 stainless with a label that's embossed. That label cannot be on the deck fill. So this little part here screws out and then it flips over and there's a chain attached to it. So some of your fuel fills and water fills will have your label on this part here, and that's actually not ABYC compliant. Your label has to be embossed and stamped on a non-movable part. So this part is going to be drilled through the deck, glued and screwed. Then we will take our 1.5 inch hose and hook it into the fill. We also have two 316 stainless hose clamps that will clamp that on there like that. And then the next part is, so that hose will go down to this here. So this is a full 316 stainless hose barb to male NPT thread. So that's going to take from the deck fill down to that. So kind of like what we have here, from the deck fill down to that. Then we're going to do a right angled turn to go over to the tank, because where my deck fill is, it's not directly over the tank itself. So we're going to have to do a turn to head over to the tank. So that's what this is for. In line, we are going to have a shutoff valve. So this is a full 316 stainless shutoff valve. 316 full is important because your hardware, your bolt, your handle should also be 316 as well, wherever possible. And this is a full flow 1.5 inch. So that will also be compliant with our 1.5 inch requirement here. So we're going to take a turn over, come over to this valve, this ball valve, then make another turn down through the exact same fitting, 316 stainless. And then we'll do 2 more hose clamps on that. And then that'll come down and over, it'll probably curve over a little bit to the top of the tank. But yeah, that's the idea. From there, it'll go straight into the tank, and then 2 more hose clamps to secure the hose to the top of the hose barb on top of the tank. The reason why we're having this installed is we can open and close our deck fill. So if for whatever reason this fails or has a leak, or we lose this screw-on cap here, for whatever reason this fails, we can close this primarily to keep water from going down into our fuel tank. So this is a secondary backup. Also, in event of large seas, pitching, rolling, if for whatever reason fuel tries to come up, we can always close this too. So that's a secondary to just to make sure we're safe, and if something ever happens, we can isolate the fuel in the tank so it doesn't go sloshing around or no water gets in. So now that we have our parts, we have to figure out where to install it. So that's next on my list, and let's go take a look at that. Now, so we're outside the boat. I'm going to show you guys where the original fuel fills are. So, right here. Sorry that it's a messy boat. I even have some butyl tape around this to keep moisture out because that one was leaking. So that's a pretty common spot to have fuel fills, because originally the fuel tank was down there inside the boat in basically a keel cavity kind of over the keel. And so having your fuel, the weight of that, as low as possible in the boat is a good idea. But we have different plans for that space where the fuel tanks were. So we're gonna move the fuel fills and to a better spot, in my opinion. So the reason why these fuel fills are here, obviously, it's a direct line. Basically direct line straight down to the tank that was installed under the cabin floor in the boat. Like I said, it's also pretty much, more or less midship. So all of your weight is down low in the middle of your boat, which is ideal for something that's big and heavy. The problem with your fuel fill being out here is if you're on a passage, you're rocking and rolling, or even just motoring around, rocking and rolling, you have this very small limited area to take a diesel jerry can and try to pour it into that. It's kind of awkward. You got to fit yourself, your funnel, your jerry can, all in this little space. And on most boats that are for personal cruising boats, you don't have this big, huge deck area on the side of your boat. There's small walkways. See, small walkways. Most boats have small walkways here. So access, ease of filling your fuel is a challenge. Plus, if you ever spill anything, there's nothing to contain it. If you spill diesel here, it's either going to go straight overboard off the side of your boat, or it'll run this way, go down your scupper drain there, or go off the back of your boat, just like water is supposed to do. But clearly with diesel fuel, we don't want that spilling into the actual body of water that we're floating in. So that's another challenge of this space too. It's cramped, hard to work with, and if and when you do have a fuel spill, it tends to go straight overboard because the boat is designed to have the water or liquid run off of it. So let's solve for that. we're going to come over here and we are going to put the fill right here. This is in the cockpit. It's mostly over the fuel tank. It's out of the way of where traffic will go, and it'll be right in front of this recessed drain here. So two main benefits of this location. Benefit number one, you have a lot more space in the cockpit to maneuver yourself, your funnel, and your jerry can. I could put the jerry can here, funnel here. I can hold the jerry can and with a siphon tool or even just a bit of hose, siphon it directly down. I'm protected in my cockpit area. I have things to hold on to. I don't need to go on deck to fill my diesel tanks. So, convenience, space, and safety. Kind of reason number one to move it here in the cockpit. Reason number two is, at least on this boat, if we do have a spill, we can better control where the diesel may run off. So, if our fuel fill is here, and for some reason we have a spill, the diesel will go into these drainage lines here. So this is a recessed, it's full of dirt right now, but this is a recessed part of our cockpit where the fuel will run into here and collect in these lines. They are connected to the cockpit drains back here, but they won't be able to go through the back of the boat because there's a raised lip right there. Now, it is connected here, but what we can do is when we do our fuel fill-ups, when we're filling up either from a hose at a fuel dock or from the jerry can itself, we'll close off those cockpit drains, either with a bung, or I do need to replace those cockpit drains, so maybe I get one that has like a closing, like screw down cap. We'll see, but the procedure would be for when we are filling up, get your fuel spill kit ready, close your cockpit drains, so that way if there is a spill, the likelihood of it going overboard is greatly reduced, and when you do catch it, you have some time because the fuel will actually go in these like drain holes here or drain lines there. So I think that's a pretty good benefit for having the fuel tank relocated where it's at. Now, the negative of where it's at, it's not as low and center of the boat as the original placement. So the weight of the fuel tank is shifted further back and it is a little bit higher. So we did think of that. One, we're going to counter that with the weight of an all-chain rode. Right now it's mostly rope, some chain, but we're going to switch to all-chain rode. So that'll balance it out from a pitch. And then as far as from this way, the lower center of gravity, can't really do anything to help with that now. Our boat is, I can't really counteract that. So the weight will be higher. It's still on center line, which is good, but the weight will be higher in the boat. In the future, do I say it right now? Yeah, why not? So we have plans of eventually converting the boat to electric drive. The diesel has over 6,000 hours on it. It was made in the year 2000. It is a common popular Yanmar, but it's definitely showing signs of age. So the idea is when the diesel engine eventually craps out, because it will, or we get sick of it and we want to replace it, we're going to go with an electric drive. So in the future, where the old fuel tanks were, down in the bottom of the hole in the bilge area, we're gonna replace those with our with batteries to drive propulsion batteries. So that'll keep the weight down low. And we'll still have the tank out here for other systems that can't be powered on batteries. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. So tonight was a bit of a bust. Yeah. So the problem is this big guy. He's so heavy and so big, and he needs so much clearance to turn the handle that I just don't have a plan for how to install him. So I need to do some more research on what fittings are available for him, because if you take a look, there's here, hold on, let me show you. So he has two holes here, a threaded hole there and a threaded hole there. So I'm going to do some research on this and say, like, is there a bracket or something that can mount here that will, like, see what I mean? He's just so awkward. That will, like, strap that guy in against the wall. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, is like some type of screws can go here, and then like have it like run down to mount flush to a wall. Like, I don't know, something like that. Well, anyway, that's a future problem, because I've decided that I'm just gonna go straight from the deck fill, down to with the hose, straight into the tank. I know that's not the right way to do it, and I know that's doesn't give us the backup that we need in case it leaks. I can't shut it off with this ball valve, but I want to use the boat. I want to get the boat out. And for right now, in these conditions and these waters, I think that's okay. We'll just go one single length of hose from the deck fill to the tank. And that way we can use the boat. So I made that decision. It's a little bit painful, but you know, progress over perfection at this point. Summer is coming, and it would be really, really nice to be able to get the boat out. And I don't want to hold us up with kind of a nice to have right now. So the must have, though, is I gotta drill through our deck to fit this thing down into the deck. So like, I gotta drill a hole this big. Drill, fill, drill. So anytime we drill through the deck and we find wood, we're going to inspect that wood, make sure it's still in a good solid material, and then protect that good solid material with epoxy, or replace that material if it's not good and solid. So right now, let's do some drilling. Okay. So here's our hole. I measured it, did a bunch of math to make sure that it was centered between these two things. So this is our lazarette here, and this is just the cockpit bench here. So it's pretty much on center. And then if you look at how it's on center with our pedestal there too. So I'm happy with the placement. Nothing to it, just to do it, I guess. It's always nerve-wracking to drill holes in the boat. It's so final, but this is really what I want. It's gonna help us. It's a better approach. there's the tape we laid down. There's the non-skid. And then look at that beautiful core. It's like brand new. Here's the moment of truth. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, look at that. It doesn't even really wiggle in there. That's brilliant. Yes. Cool. And I'll probably line it up like that too, so that screw is on the center line and these are kind of off to the side, and you can read the diesel right there really easily. So that is perfect. I am thrilled with that. Okay, got our oversized holes drilled out. I'm gonna go down there and knock down any wispy bits. Probably do that from below. And then while I'm down there, I'll tape up the backside really good, and then do fill these holes with thickened epoxy, and then just take unthickened epoxy and apply a pretty good layer inside this. Let that dry overnight, and then we can come back and install that sucker with 4200. And yeah, consider that part of the job done. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll see. That's the plan. Let's keep going. All right. 3 hours later, 3.5 hours later, we've got everything drying there. So I set it up under that just tape down garbage bag to keep the water off. Because it's, gonna rain probably, and don't want the water getting on our thickened epoxy and our drill fill drill holes. So I epoxied the center part of where our deck fill is going to go, and I epoxied drilled and filled where our hardware is going to go, and covered that. So yeah, keep the moisture off and let that dry. Maybe I'll be back in a couple of days. I'm not sure. We'll see. It depends on if I have the hardware. If the hardware comes in for the mounting of that, I'll probably just try to make a quick stop back at the boat to install that. So yeah, I think today went pretty well. I mean, I'm super happy with the way that the core sample came out. Like, that is nice. And yeah, so that thickened epoxy and the other epoxy in there will hopefully keep that core nice and fresh and protected should there be any leaks. Yeah, so I'm just gonna wrap up here, head home, clean up, get some dinner, and call it a night. But yeah, it's work night, weeknight. It's stressful at times. It's a lot of time and energy and money and hard work. It's a lot, but it's always it's also a yacht of love, and it feels really good to improve the boat and keep things moving forward. So thanks all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.